morning and welcome to our weekly ambulatory care grand rounds. Our presenter this morning is going to be Miss Nisa Harris. She is a PAC nurse in Fort Worth. Nisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All
Good
right, thank
morning.
you. Good morning and welcome.
Thank
We can
you.
see your beautiful PowerPoint.
Okay, great.
I have started the recording. So just in
Okay.
case somebody have to jump off or need to want to go back and listen to this presentation again, you're all more than welcome to do so. If you can't access it, let me know. But it's probably because you have not accepted the Outlook invite yet. So please, Nisa, take it over.
Okay, thank you. Morning, everyone. So I am a PAC nurse here at Fort Worth. I'm also a somatic stress relief specialist and the author of Polyvagal Playdate, which is what this presentation is based on. And I want to just figure out with you how many of you actually want to be sitting and listening to a presentation right now. And I don't need you to give me an actual answer, but I want you to know for yourself how interested you are and what is cueing you in to knowing that you either are or not. Like, are your legs restless? Did you not have coffee, especially with daylight savings? Are you feeling heavy and groggy? Do you have to go to the bathroom? All of these feelings in your body are messengers telling you how you are coping with doing something that you either do or don't want to be doing. And it's this level of awareness that I want to bring to your attention over the next half hour or so, because it can affect not only our patients, but your everyday stress levels. And starting to recognize this level of awareness can be transformational for you and our veterans. So first I want to bring your attention to your brain. This is a hand model of the brain. This is your prefrontal cortex, when your fingers are over your thumb, for example. Your prefrontal cortex has the logical, rational part of your brain, and it's associated with safety, rational thinking, that kind of thing. When you flip your lid, you have the amygdala. Your thumb can be like your amygdala, right? And so that's your fight or flight, and when you perceive a threat, all right? There are some stages in between that I'm not going to totally touch on today, but then you have the shutdown in the brain stem, where our body tries to protect us to collapse there. And so what I want you to take away from this slide basically is that nothing rational can happen, can be received when we don't have at least some of this yellow safety area in our thinking. And that's really critical with everything, because ultimately anything outside of the yellow safety you can understand is an attempt to keep you safe. Therefore, you're in survival mode. And survival mode can manifest itself like anxiety or depression or outward anger, right? So this is the shutdown, this is flight, this is fight, or a combination, right? Inward anger. And really we're trying to get to this yellow, happy, present, creative, where you feel safe and at home. And even that is anything that where you're trying to get there can be a survival attempt as well. And so what causes us to be in this irrational survival mode? Well, what is a trauma? A trauma is anything that happens too much, too fast, or too soon. A trauma can be with a big T and a little t. And so understanding that our trauma is a reaction instead of the event itself that occurred can help us start to see our patterns. And when our body is in a physiological state of stress with undigested life experiences, it affects our functioning and well-being. That it can be considered any kind of trauma with a T, right? It doesn't have to be a big car accident or something. So a trigger is the thing that feels really uncomfortable. And when I feel that, what is that teaching me? That's what we have to try to figure out for ourselves. What can I do for myself at that moment? There's something being revealed there, and in that revealing, we can have healing. So let's say there's a normal, what you think of a trauma. There's an accident. You've started to understand that a trauma and trigger. Here's the trigger. You're thinking about it, and what the question is, how am I coping? What does that look like for me? And it's probably not necessarily what you think. I'm thinking, I'm not talking about self-care or how many times a week you meditate. I'm asking you to start to notice what happens to you when you have been triggered. In other words, how does the stress manifest for you? The stress happens to everyone and it manifests differently for everyone. So I want you to start to notice what it looks like for you, because starting to notice those patterns is where the healing begins. It doesn't have to be that car accident causing you distress. It can be the meaning you assign to being late to work, or not getting a text back from someone that causes you any level of stress, right? It could be anything. Just notice how it shows up for you. Is it outward anger? Is it unfocused? Is it listless in bed? Is it running away? Is it crying? How does it look for you? So if you can't picture what you or someone else looks like when you're stressed, I want you to first understand what someone who is being emotionally abused may feel like. Again, it's not about a big car accident, it's about the meaning you assign to the events that occur. If you notice you are feeling any of these, for example, consider this as causing a cycle of stress for you that is causing you to show up differently in your world. So, emotional signs of abuse, you would agree that if your wants and needs feel invalidated and neglected, or you feel bad about yourself when you, in general, or you feel guilty for things that aren't your fault, or your boundaries aren't being valued, or you feel criticized and humiliated, you feel controlled, you're being gaslit, you've lost your sense of self, you're isolated. These are clear signs of emotional abuse, and then ultimately the impact of the emotional abuse can look like, sorry, just lost my PowerPoint. Um, the impact of emotional abuse can look like the person has the following reactions. They break down during small disagreements. They are hypersensitive to criticism. They need a lot of reassurance and validation. They're They have difficulty confiding and trusting in others. They feel like they are not enough. They take on the shame of the abuser. And so if you look at the body language of both the abuser and the one being abused, can you see how easily the victim would start to feel all of the things we just reviewed? The abuser is in the fight state, and the victim is in the shutdown, freeze state. No one is acting rationally, and so they can easily feed themselves whatever stories of shame and blame they come up with, right? They're not in the top of that ladder at the beginning of the slideshow, the yellow safety. Notice how small and silent and numb the victim looks, and how big and overpowering the abuser can feel. The same is true for our relationship with ourselves. This is what we need to realize. If we don't recognize that at any given moment, we end up being the abuser 1 minute and the victim the next, and we get stuck in endless cycles of survival without even realizing we're doing it, we wonder why we have brain fog, chronic fatigue, we get sick all the time, and we have low tolerance for anything extra. We beat ourselves up about something 1 minute and then feel worthless the next, and that's if we're not taking it out on others around us in that way. So name an emotion that's not valid. emotions are valid. It's reactions and behaviors that can use healthy adjustments. The little thing that could start to help us heal all of these uh, abuses towards ourselves or others is recognizing that emotions occur for important reasons. Even when we look at people and think that they are overreacting, if you actually understood their perception, you would realize that they may even be underreacting. The emotion is always a carrier of a personal truth. And that doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, but it doesn't have to be accurate to be important. It exists, and that is why you are having this emotion. So, to be able to recognize your personal truth is to be able to say that there is a very good reason why this is cropping up. This is the thought or belief within me, and I have to recognize what that thought or belief is in order to understand what this emotion is trying to convey to me. And then you can step outside of that and objectively look at that belief, and that's where the real work begins. Deciding whether or not you want to keep that belief anymore, whether it's actually accurate, trying to shoot holes in the evidence, or saying, you know what, that's definitely something I'm going to even more consciously own as who I am. And really, what story are we telling ourselves? Is it our story or theirs? Does their angst shown as anger, does that have to be my angst shown as depression? Aim to be objective. Is that person ghosting me because they hate me or because they are dealing with stuff that they have not healed yet? It's not always about me. Is it true? Is what I believe true? Is this patient really the meanest person in the world, or are they frustrated with the system and I have an opportunity to make it a better day? The goal is not to always be calm, cool, and collected. Everyone simply wants to feel calm, but really it's because of what that stands for. And to be yourself. If you want to know what it feels like to be yourself and at ease, then consider what a healthy relationship looks and feels like. Isn't this how most people would ultimately, in an ideal world, like to feel in a relationship with themselves and others? Like comfortable, they trust themselves, they could be honest, independent, respect, feel equal, they feel kindness toward themselves and others, they can have fun, there's healthy conflict where people take responsibility, right? So the awareness, instead of masking and suppressing, wouldn't it be amazing without fear of shutting down or lashing out to match our insides to our outsides? Excuse me. These awareness points help navigate you back to that rational safety point in your brain where, pardon me, I have a frog in my throat, where it's helpful to make other decisions from. So first, if you have a feeling that's going on, stop, pause, and acknowledge what's going on. Welcome the feeling. Attune where in your body you're feeling it. You can even reflect maybe at that time or another time to see, hey, when have I felt this before in the past? And you can even empathize with yourself or others who are going through that. And then give the nurture that with something that you need in that moment that you didn't receive in the past or that you're needing just in the present. Engaging with people in small connective ways, either through eye contact, smiling, listening through things, that those all stimulate your vagus nerve, which I'll get into a little bit more later, and have a real benefit on your nervous system and help. It's one of the ways to self-regulate, which there's plenty of skills to learn there, but learning those skills as well can help start this healing. And having self-compassion in general, learning that you are worthy and really what that means, not just affirming for yourself, but learning how to feel that somatically. Somatically means in your body. And all of these are easier said than done, but it is possible and it is healing. The important thing to remember is that we are just stuck. We need to learn all of the patterns that we have subconsciously gained over the years and then learn new ones that are actually true instead of reactive from a survival mode standpoint. Most people are so disconnected from what their somatic patterns and reactions are and why they are doing it, but starting to learn that and then practicing it regularly for 3 months, people see incredible shifts. Your body knows what to do, and when it's not constantly trying to survive, it just needs to relearn those skills. And so just remembering that you are not broken, and telling your veterans this, it can be life-changing, that you're not broken and you're just stuck without directions, and you can learn to trust your inner GPS instead of falling victim to the patterns that you've been stuck in. Now, there is a concept of toxic awareness. When you start to realize that this is why people are acting the way they are, first of all, toxic awareness could be constantly trying to gather info to figure out why am I broken, just as an example. Some of you that might resonate with some of you. But once you have this new self-awareness, you might start letting your self-awareness ruin your relationships because now all you see is the red flags. And you could be like, are you gaslighting me because your parents neglected your emotions as a child and you don't know any better, and stop taking out your trauma on me, as opposed to being there to gently discover it alongside them. So you may start to label your relationships with that villainized persona. You might focus on the toxic and forget to be curious about the healthy. You might have a behaviors need to be fixed mindset, or you might manipulate with your self-awareness instead of aiming to understand intentions and if they prefer to show up differently. So how can you respond to others? Instead of blaming them for their trauma, it sounds more like, Mr. B, what you are describing sounds something I would be really frustrated with as well. What steps can I take today to help you get what you need? So threats can escalate the situation, but calm and sturdiness, it doesn't reinforce bad behavior. You set the pathway for improved behavior, and you can co-regulate with them. So their angst and upset doesn't have to be yours. They can kind of borrow your calm, and aiming to understand them without invalidating them. Believe them that they believe what they are dealing with. It doesn't have to be true for you. They are really experiencing something difficult, and you can approach them from that space and ask how you can help them get what they need, and or be present if they don't know what they need. You create a culture of safety and to help them get to that top of the ladder more easily, where rational thinking can happen, and that's where they can tell you what they really need. And so first, before we can help others regulate their emotions, it helps if we know what of those emotional abuses we are feeling in ourselves and confront them. So, are you thinking, I'm not worthy, it's my fault? What does dysregulation look like for me somatically? Remember, how does that show up for you in your body? Shame makes you want to suppress instead of feel, and that causes stress in your body, whether you're aware of it or not. And so making the unconscious conscious, and the link to our decisions, actions, feelings, and behaviors is what can help us. Learning how to guide ourselves back to safety, aka the top of the ladder, is everything. So to keep from getting stuck in those negative survival spirals, to you can learn movement and to befriend your nervous system. So instead of being hard on yourself, be curious about what is going on for you. Being curious gets you to that safety rung of the ladder. Stress may be from not getting your emotional needs met. Learning how to give yourself what you need and setting intentions, reconnect, regulation, learning how to feel what fear and safety feel like in your body can also help start to feel what the differences are. And movement, this is key, movement clues your body into the fact that it is not stuck. And so this is just an example. You can think of your anger as your ride or die best friend, right? Who may be impulsive and act in ways that you would never. But instead of shaming your anger or any other reaction that you have, or shaming other people's anger, it's more healing and gets you to that place of safety and rational thinking to recognize that those reactions were just your ride or die best friends who would do anything for you. They are a part of you. They don't define you, and they aren't trying to keep you stuck with them. They are just aiming to help you get through rougher patches by either revving you up so that you don't collapse, or collapsing you so that you don't hurt yourself or others overdoing it. And so there are things that you can actually do in the moment of triggers once you start learning your patterns and what you actually need in each moment. That will involve resetting your vagus nerve. There are curated moves that you can find all over the internet, but I want you to get the gist, because the gist will involve stretching as open or as closed as you need, involving the part of your vagus nerve that runs along the side of your head by your ears and goes all the way down to your stomach. It's called the winding nerve. It's a really long nerve. So anything that stimulates that, balancing to help strengthen your cerebellum, which also affects regulation. Also, when you activate proprioceptive points, like doing heel crashes or providing pressure to certain joints or pressing certain spots on your ear, especially if you have like your ADHD kids, those kinds of things sometimes can be really helpful. That's why weighted blankets you hear are helpful. Or laying down when you're feeling overwhelmed to stimulate the vagus nerve. Or heart circles with your hands when you're feeling shame. Or hip openings, like a little girl might swing her legs all up. Like all of these help bring you to the top of the ladder and regain equilibrium at any given moment, so you are more equipped to function optimally in your day. Different moods will require different moves. So start listening to your body, your patterns, and what you need, and recognize that others have not learned these skills, or like that they're even accessible and literally at their fingertips, but that you can be a safe space that either supports or guides them. Notice the sensations before, during, and after completing all of these interventions for yourself, and use those notes for next time. Also, different sounds that you make can stimulate the vagus nerve in different ways. So if you need to or 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 ha, or and bounce and move and grunt, know that this is all helpful regulating coping things that your body already knows how to do, and sometimes does it naturally, subconsciously, without you realizing, because your body knows what you need. You just need to give it permission to not stay stuck in being frozen, shut down, or overwhelmed. Your body is processing with these moves in a way that rationally your mind doesn't rationally understand. And there is no judgment needed. You are now just becoming aware of your reactions and others, and be curious. Ask yourself, I wonder why I am or they are reacting that way. Is there anything I can do to help myself or them feel present and in that safety area? So by the way, a big hint is that playfulness, movement, seeing that someone is with you, and curiosity help get them there faster. Humor also. So if a patient is starting to get riled up, even just saying, I hear you, and I am going to see what I can do to help you with this. I am curious to understand more and will ask you some questions to clarify, to make sure I am getting at what you need if that works for you. I had a patient come in with his wife for a blood pressure check, and he explained that he has PTSD. And they mentioned that they probably need marriage counseling. Once I simply explained to them that with PTSD, your hippocampus shrinks, and it's like the past is happening in the present, and that therefore it's probably felt impossible for him to ever get out of fight or flight or shutdown, he felt so reassured that he wasn't crazy. More than that, I explained that as often as he could, to incorporate things into his day that helped him to bring in a feeling of safety, joy, connection, to help him start to rewire his patterns and get him to that safety rung on the ladder. Excuse me. He said that there wasn't much that he found joy in, which is pretty typical for people with PTSD because they are very disconnected from their body. And then I showed him the 30-point difference that breathing, excuse me, made before and after his blood pressure, explaining that breathing like this is literal medicine for his veins because it flips that switch from fight flight to rest and recover. And he had been closing his eyes and breathing, tapping into whatever calm he could in that moment. I said, did you feel how that calm just manifested for you? That is the feeling you are aiming for as often as possible, even in bouts throughout the day. If it means you need to escape a little to get there, then that is an option too. I explained to the wife that it may feel like he lashes out and or retreats when she tried to help him with something. And it's hard not to take it personally, even though he is going into safety mode. And that she probably has her own triggers and being yelled at and feels less than, and it's a vicious cycle. This was all in a matter of a few minutes, by the way. This wasn't like a whole session or anything. And then I guided them to mental health for further guidance, but they felt so relieved to have this working knowledge of that which is expected and in their control. And so there is no right or wrong, right? Because feelings are beyond rational. And there's a number of case studies that I don't think I'm going to get into now, but within minutes, like this 75-year-old woman with a fear of dogs since she was 5 years old, within 10 minutes, I was able to work with her somatically and got her to the point where she was able to sit with a dog at her feet, but or just a 26-year-old veteran patient feeling disassociation with PTSD, was in our clinic, and even just making him feel more comfortable and recognizing there were little things that he could do, even just moving his fingers because that's all he can move, was helpful for him to be able to move forward in our appointment at that time. Otherwise, he was very withdrawn, shut down, and disconnected. So those are just a couple of examples, but I just wanted to give you a chance to let me know what your takeaways were or ask any questions that you might have, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
No, thank you, Miss Harris. That was amazing. I just want to know when is your next availability? Because I
Oh.
want to get into your clinic. Let me tell you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. I needed this. I needed you
Oh.
today. Thank you. Thank you
Oh.
so much. Yes, ma'am. This is the best one. I can promise you that.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
gosh. Yeah. Yes.
Thank
Look
you.
at all the hearts and the thank yous
Thank
and
you.
wow.
I'm so
Man, the
glad.
gift. You have the gift, Miss
Oh,
Harris. I'm telling you. Yes, yes, yes.
thank you.
Okay. I mean, I don't have anything to follow that, so I'm just gonna sit here and let you take in all the hearts and the thank yous and the love coming your way because this is right on time.
Thank
Yes.
you. Oh, that makes me feel so happy. I'm glad it was. I hear that audible sigh, so that's that somatic release of energy. Just a
Yeah.
great example there.
Yes. Oh gosh. Oh man. Yeah, we want to book you for future gigs.
You know where I am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I do for sure. Yes.
Anyone have any questions? Did I miss anything in the chat?
Not just a bunch of thank you and love.
Okay,
That's
okay.
what's coming your
Thanks for all the
way.
love. I appreciate
Yes.
the feedback. Thank you all.
I don't see any comment. I mean, any questions. Yes.
Okay. Wow. All right. Thank
You
you all
left
for
us
your time and
speechless.
attention. So take in what's that telling you?
Yeah. Dolly said, "When are you coming back?" I know, Dolly. I'm ready. I got my calendar open. I'm already looking at dates. We need dates.
I could talk about this for a year. That's why I had to write a book. So
Yes, yes,
right.
and I would love to purchase your book. Now, and this is all. This is not work I'm talking
Oh,
about. This is
yes.
me personally. Yes,
Okay.
Cece, I will buy her book.
Thank you, Cece.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, probably more than one. I can look. This is some birthday and Christmas gifts coming somebody's way. Oh man.
But I'm happy to answer any questions if something comes up afterwards. Let me know. If yeah, there's so much more to say about this, and it's just like a side passion of mine. I know that this is how I healed my nervous system, and when I say healed, it's a process. It's ongoing, but I know that it is possible. So. Uh, if people are feeling like there is no way out of what they're doing, it's not that you will never feel that way again. It's that you start to learn that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and you can get through it so much faster. What used to take years could take minutes, if not days or weeks instead of years, you know. Um, so that's just something to consider. Uh, oh, I don't know. Just, do I share my book? I don't mean to be advertising my book, but you can message me privately if you were wanting to.
Yeah, we don't want to violate any
Yes, I'm
federal
sorry.
codes.
Yes.
But yes, the presentation is being recorded. So yes, look, I'm gonna have it on loop here at
Okay.
my desk.
Oh.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
that makes me. Okay, thank you. I'm glad that you were able to receive it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Thanks for the love, y'all. I appreciate it. I'm feeling it.
And we are too. I know I am.